You carry an energy that cannot be imitated. When others tried to break you, you turned their shadows into your strength. What they thought was silence was actually your soul writing a story in invisible ink, a story only time will reveal. There is a rhythm in stillness, a frequency that vibrates far beyond human conflict. By choosing not to react, you aligned yourself with forces that move like tides beneath the surface, steady, unseen, yet unstoppable. While they mistook your quiet for surrender, what truly happened was their own unraveling. Their actions echoed into realms they cannot perceive, calling forth a review of everything they tried to conceal. In that pause you held, entire worlds were rearranging themselves in your favor. Your silence was not weakness, it was a coded key slipped into the locks of destiny. They swung wildly with blunt tools, unaware that you had already unlocked the chamber where truth cannot be buried. What looked like an ending was the ignition of a sequence they cannot interrupt. Knowledge has settled into you now, not as facts or evidence, but as revelations carved directly into your spirit. This knowing cannot be debated, for it is not learned, it is remembered from the eternal blueprint of creation itself. The restraint you carried has become your shield and your weapon. It was never about proving anything to the blind. It was about holding sacred truths in trust until the hour arrives when light itself will speak for you. Already, the universe has been leaving signs, small confirmations, symbols woven into your days. These patterns are whispers that you have not been mistaken. They are reminders that your silence has already rewritten the ending. You are the kind of soul that cannot be deceived for long, because the truth always finds a way to reach you. Each attempt to distort your sense of reality was met with a subtle signal, an overheard phrase, a timely sight, a moment so precise it pierced through the fog of manipulation. Intuition became your compass, not because it guessed, but because it resonated with a frequency beyond interference, pulling you toward clarity again and again. What hides in the shadow can never escape the pull of illumination. Those who thought they secured a triumph only wrapped themselves in illusions spun from their own hands. What they mistook for dominance was nothing more than a brief trick of perception. The real movement belonged to the deeper order, where revelation builds quietly until it erupts like dawn across the horizon. This recognition is not born of suspicion, but of sharpened senses that catch tremors in the unseen fabric of existence, tremors most would dismiss. Perception sharpened by struggle becomes less a burden and more a gift. What was intended to diminish you instead refined you, like fire strengthening steel. Against their efforts to compress you into fear, you expanded into wider dimensions of possibility. Renewal emerged like green shoots breaking through stone, reshaping the path before you. Their opposition inadvertently served as the very ground upon which your spirit ascended into territories they cannot map. While they cling to patterns of control and imitation, your essence is carried upward into spaces where their grasp cannot reach. Their attention on you, tinged with envy, only verifies the magnitude of what you carry. For no one invests such effort in surveillance of emptiness. They sense within you a power unassigned by any human authority, a current flowing directly from the source of creation itself. You are living proof that their systems of dominance are fragile constructs. Now comes the inevitable collapse of those who built snares for you. Their schemes, once carefully stitched, fray thread by thread under the weight of their own contradictions. The manipulator finds themselves trapped in the very net they wove. Records they once handled carelessly now rise against them as undeniable witnesses. Confusion overtakes their strategies not as accident, but as part of the higher design where truth makes itself known through contrast. Every attempt to erase traces only deepens the imprint. Each frantic alliance exposes more of the chain they sought to hide. Their rewriting of narratives only sharpens the outline of the original truth. Resources begin to slip through their fingers, drained by the inexorable principle that energy always circles back to its source. What was sent out in distortion returns in precise proportion, mirroring every act with mathematical certainty. And so the stage is set for timing that answers not to human calendars but to cosmic order. The moves they orchestrated against you now reconfigure themselves into the very process of their unveiling. Their words become snares they cannot escape, their lies unravel into contradictions, their secrecy strains against the surface demanding exposure. You have only to remain steadfast, for the design is already complete. The unveiling has begun, and the truth cannot be restrained. You have become the kind of being who no longer needs to chase justice. Justice finds you. The structures once aimed against your path are now reshaping themselves to reveal the truth. Devices once thought to shield their secrecy are now revealing their activity. Networks they relied on for slander are now becoming mirrors, reflecting their own nature back to them. Records they assumed were hidden are preserved beyond their reach, drawing maps of what they tried to conceal. Their own systems now trace patterns of exposure that no human hand could design. The one who once moved like a shadow now finds themselves under a light they cannot escape. Those who joined in deception, whether with small betrayals or calculated intent, are about to confront what they participated in. Some will break away in panic. Others will cling until reality leaves them no choice but to face it. A few will awaken, stunned by the revelation that actions always return to their origin. The outcome was never random. The current events are simply the equation of cause and effect unfolding with flawless accuracy. The energy they poured into your downfall has begun its journey back, pulled by an order more reliable than any law of men. While they whispered behind closed doors, another intelligence was setting the stage in dimensions beyond their sight. Their plans were limited by time and ego, but the design that governs all things is unlimited, exact, and deliberate. Your task was never to intervene. It was to hold your stance, anchored in truth, while the deeper machinery turned on its own. What they misjudged as opportunities to wound you were actually gateways to your initiation. Every trial forced growth coded into your very essence. Each attempt to weaken you produced a deeper refinement, changing your perception, unlocking strength you never thought possible. Their aggression, in reality, was the pressure that awakened your hidden brilliance. What seemed like cruelty was the key that unlocked your higher becoming. The heat they aimed to consume you with became the forge of transformation. Instead of collapse, you emerged more resilient, built to carry light they could never handle. What appeared as arbitrary suffering revealed itself as precise refinement of your soul. The very struggles they threw at you became chisels shaping a new architecture of your being. What they thought would silence you instead awakened an ancestral current of strength flowing through your lineage. A turning point now approaches, where what once seemed blocked will move like water breaking through a dam. Ventures long obstructed will flow with alignment. Creative visions once stalled will explode into form. Paths that were cut off will be replaced with connections so perfectly tuned to your essence they will feel preordained. Where lack appeared, overflow will begin, compounding into opportunities far beyond anything you once envisioned. The tide shifts not in trickles, but in waves that create new gravity around your life. And the most powerful truth: you rise without betraying who you are. You are not required to mimic their deception to overcome it. You need not trade your light for shadows to prevail. The very honesty they mocked becomes the ground of your triumph. The higher currents you are aligned with operate at frequencies unreachable to those still bound by manipulation. Your ascent is not only survival, it is the undeniable proof that integrity remains the strongest force in existence. You are witnessing the final sparks of a structure collapsing under its own weight. As their influence unravels, expect the flare of hostility that comes when fear disguises itself as aggression. What may look like defiance is not true power, it is the last noise of a crumbling order. Their frustration aimed toward your expansion is not about you at all. It is their struggle with a universal rhythm they cannot bend to their will. Watch this with calm awareness, knowing that such displays reveal their recognition of the inevitable. Their next moves follow a pattern as old as time. They will attempt to insert themselves back into your orbit, hoping to test whether their tactics still work. Some will reach out through familiar faces, others will try to trigger dormant wounds, and a few will appeal to emotions they once exploited. Yet, to you now, these attempts resemble echoes from a language you no longer speak. Their provocations will bounce against a shield of growth that renders their efforts weightless. Publicly, their signals begin to falter. You may notice strained performances, contradictions leaking through carefully crafted images, or sudden fluctuations that betray hidden stress. They may mask it with forced cheerfulness or indirect complaints, but the undercurrent is obvious, unease about what is surfacing. For some, the weight of their deception manifests as physical exhaustion, while others find their stability breaking apart in finances, partnerships, or health. What appears as misfortune is simply the natural echo of what they sent outward, returning amplified. As your own reality stretches wider, theirs contracts into tighter corners. Their path of denial and evasion becomes increasingly suffocating, while your growth feels like open skies. Attempts to regain authority over you only accelerate their collapse. Each manipulation sows another fracture. Each deception spawns new inconsistencies. Even allies they once relied on begin stepping away, sensing instability that cannot be concealed. The divergence between your expansion and their descent becomes unmistakable. From a higher vantage, the design becomes visible. The betrayals, the setbacks, the attempts at sabotage, all align within a larger order that shaped your evolution. Every obstacle honed your resilience, every loss cleared space for something greater, every attack contributed to the refinement of your awareness. Those who thought themselves hidden participants in your downfall unknowingly played their roles in a far greater unfolding, the activation of your next stage. What is occurring surpasses personal dramas and rises into the arena of timeless principle. They thought themselves originators of events, when in truth, they were enacting patterns written by laws beyond their grasp. The sequence of revelation moves not by chance but by the cadence of universal order. What they mistook as their control was only their participation in a script they did not author. And so, revelation follows its own season, neither hurried nor delayed. You do not need to pursue their exposure, for it unfolds in its appointed time. Human attempts at justice may falter, swayed by influence and corruption, but the greater law never miscalculates. Its balance is exact, its operation precise. This is why you can stand with certainty. The truth is not only approaching, it has already begun to break through, carrying with it the undeniable weight of inevitability. You have been carried through storms that were designed to crush you, yet unseen hands adjusted the winds so they bent instead of broke you. Protection surrounded your path in ways too intricate to be explained by chance. What should have pierced your defenses was rerouted. What should have collapsed your spirit became nothing more than resistance training for your soul. With every surge of hostility against you, new layers of invisible reinforcement formed, adapting to the shape of the attack before it even reached your door. Reflect on how many disasters dissolved before they could touch you. Invitations that seemed harmless but carried hidden snares dissolved into nothing when your inner voice whispered caution. People who smiled at the surface but carried quiet daggers were kept at a distance by impulses you couldn't fully explain. Paths that appeared prosperous collapsed just before you stepped onto them, preventing you from falling into pits disguised as opportunities. Dreams brought coded signals, alerting you to shifts long before your conscious mind could decode them. Your subconscious became a receiver tuned to higher frequencies, transmitting information that protected you before harm could even form. Even the solitude that once stung with heaviness was part of this architecture of care. The silence you walked through was not abandonment, it was insulation. It kept you free from the infections of envy, distraction, and corruption that would have blurred your sight. While enemies imagined you cut off, a hidden host stood guard. They could not see the protective wall built around your being, but your sensitivity caught glimpses of it. No chosen traveler walks the fire unaccompanied. Unseen companions patrol the very edges of the battlefield to ensure the mission is preserved. This shield was not only external, it was within. Your thoughts were guarded from invasion. Your feelings were kept from being hijacked by false impulses. Your ability to decide clearly was defended from the fog that others hoped would cloud your judgment. The purpose of this protection was never to erase pain. It was to ensure that pain remained a teacher rather than a destroyer. Every trial was calibrated so that no wound could derail your path, only refine it. That distinction is the key to understanding how sacred protection operates. The evidence of this safeguarding appeared in timing too perfect to deny. A delayed message kept you from entanglement. A cancelled event altered the course of your day, sparing you from unseen harm. A blocked transaction prevented you from anchoring yourself to ruin. What seemed like ordinary glitches were precise maneuvers of a higher intelligence. Even when adversaries gained ground, invisible boundaries limited their reach. They could disturb but not dismantle. They could slow but not stop. They could mark your skin but not pierce your essence. Some protections were not meant to be visible until hindsight revealed their brilliance. You thought chance intervened when plans dissolved, but in truth, it was orchestration. Every interference had purpose. Each delay hid an unseen alignment. The shield shifted its form constantly, adapting to keep pace with the evolving tactics used against you. What looked like obstacles were in fact recalibrations, keeping you within the current of a destiny too precise to be derailed by human schemes. And through it all, one truth emerges unmistakably: you were never left unguarded. Every challenge was measured, every threat accounted for, every ambush balanced by unseen counterweights. The same presence that permitted your trials also prevented your destruction. The design was not to erase the fire, but to ensure you walked through it and came out stronger, tempered, and radiant. What sought to consume you became, instead, the evidence that something greater was always holding the line on your behalf. The acceleration of truth always exposes what once hid comfortably in the shadows. People who pretended devotion while secretly serving other motives now reveal themselves. At first, this unveiling may sting, but in reality, it clears the path of hidden sabotage. Those cloaked in borrowed virtue, those who masked obsession with false spirituality, those who manipulated from quiet corners of control, none can withstand the rising clarity. Addictions, compulsions, and the urge to dominate reveal themselves not through your effort but because light naturally forces disclosure. When frequency rises, what is not aligned must either evolve or exit. What felt like betrayal from a limited lens reveals itself as careful pruning from a higher vantage. Your field has become so refined that it acts as a mirror to others. Those carrying suppressed guilt feel uneasy around you, without understanding why. Others, unable to hide, confess secrets they never intended to share. Your presence has become a filter that separates authenticity from false appearance. This sorting is not personal. It is the natural effect of energy precision. The people leaving your orbit were never equipped to accompany you forward. Their departure makes space for connections designed to amplify your path. What once felt like support but drained you now makes way for resonance that strengthens you. As the unnecessary falls away, your true direction becomes more obvious. Projects once stalled now move freely. Gifts once questioned now shine with confidence. Work that felt undermined finds its rightful stage. None of this happens by chance. It is the return of what your endurance earned. What was delayed emerges multiplied, what was hidden stands revealed, and what was denied to you begins flowing with momentum impossible to stop. The universe answers your persistence with matching abundance. This stage requires cleansing not because of corruption within you, but because of residue gathered while walking among corrupted energies. Practices of purification sharpen your clarity, freeing you from ties that no longer belong. Notice how you can no longer pretend interest in shallow exchanges or tolerate relationships based on convenience. This isn't withdrawal, It is recognition that your energy is sacred and cannot be squandered on surfaces that lead nowhere. Your standards have expanded beyond common understanding. Everything you touch, consume, or engage with now passes through a frequency filter invisible to most. What once felt ordinary now feels corrosive, while what once stretched you now fuels you. Your voice has sharpened into a tool of activation. When you speak, others feel a shift. They think differently, see differently, perceive possibilities hidden before. The very process meant to weaken your expression refined it into an instrument that dissolves illusions and calls forth clarity. Discernment has evolved into a gift few possess. You see through facades with a precision that feels otherworldly. Others sense this without fully grasping it, which is why they approach you for guidance. Even without speaking, your energy forces truths to surface. The guilty feel restless. The concealed cannot stay concealed in your presence. What was designed to break your spirit instead expanded your channels, connecting you to currents of wisdom that extend beyond ordinary consciousness. Every false tie is being cut not as punishment, but as preparation. Every departure is an act of love that clears space for those who can stand in your light without trembling. Every ending is the seed of a greater beginning. What once pretended loyalty dissolves, and what is genuine steps forward. This sorting process ensures that only what is real remains. The universe refuses to let contamination travel with you, because your next season requires purity of alignment, clarity of purpose, and companions of equal resonance. You have become more than an individual navigating personal trials. You are now a vessel through which higher order communicates itself into the world. What unfolds is not centered on your vindication, but on the dismantling of illusions that have controlled entire systems for ages. Your story is not small. It is a reflection of universal law expressing itself through lived experience. This is why the weight you feel seems larger than your life. You are carrying an echo of something collective, a transformation reaching far beyond your circle. The patterns showing up in your own experience mirror what is surfacing everywhere. Leaders with titles, figures with visibility, institutions with long-standing authority, all are caught in the same wave of revelation. The tools once used against you are now being unmasked as instruments of control across society. Methods that sought to confine you are being revealed as mechanisms that have confined many. What you endured personally becomes part of a broader unveiling, a link in a chain of disclosures that no single hand directs but all are subject to. Your quiet restraint became the most profound safeguard of evidence. Every time you refused to respond in anger, you preserved clarity that now proves invaluable. Each moment you chose silence instead of reaction strengthened your position as a witness whose integrity cannot be questioned. The very forces that mocked your stillness are now ensnared by their own records, their own financial patterns, their own communications. Their facades crumble under the weight of their own choices, as timing arranges exposures that align with universal principle rather than human plotting. The strength of your endurance has created resonance across layers of reality. Others who have suffered in silence find courage in your example. Those unsure of their perceptions now gain confidence from your testimony. The gaslighting that once confused you loses power under the glare of collective recognition. You no longer need outside approval, for the confirmations come from reality itself. Every contradiction that emerges, every hidden agenda revealed, validates the truth you carried when few believed you. The outcome of this process was never uncertain. The moment injustice was launched against you, it already carried its own downfall within it. The laws governing existence cannot be bent permanently. They restore balance with perfect precision. Those who plotted against you revealed their own weakness in needing numbers, needing schemes, needing secrecy. What seemed overwhelming in the moment is now shown as hollow, because principle, not strategy, dictates the end. Your refusal to be dragged into the theater of conflict marked your elevation. That choice demonstrated mastery, the ability to step out of the vibration where manipulation operates. In doing so, you shifted dimensions, leaving behind the plane where their tactics still have meaning. They continue their games, but you have graduated into creation mode, where attention no longer fuels their illusions. What was once a battle dissolves into irrelevance, for they are fighting in an arena you no longer occupy. The true victory is not their collapse, it is your transformation. The real triumph lies in preserving love when hatred circled, in holding truth steady while lies multiplied, in keeping dignity alive when corruption tried to consume it. The injustice you faced became raw material for your expansion. Darkness became fertilizer for light. Opposition turned into fuel for your rise. This is the deeper alchemy, not merely surviving persecution, but transmuting it into strength that redefines what power truly means.